For most of the 20th century, retirement in America came with a promise. You put in the years, and when you were done, a check showed up every month for the rest of your life. You didn't have to manage it. You didn't have to guess how long you'd live. Somebody else carried that risk for you. And then quietly, over about 2 decades, that promise got handed back to you. Nobody held a vote on it. Most people didn't even notice it happening. But the retirement your parents were promised is not the one waiting for you. Start with what came before. A traditional pension, the kind economists call a defined benefit plan, is a promise from your employer to pay you a set amount every month once you retire, usually for life. The company put in the money, invested it, and took on the risk that the market might crash or that you might live to 95. That was their problem, not yours. For decades, this was normal for a big chunk of American workers, especially in manufacturing and union jobs. But it was expensive and unpredictable for the companies paying it. And when a company went under, its workers sometimes lost everything. In 1963, when Studebaker shut down its car plant, thousands of workers lost most of the pension they'd spent their careers counting on. That failure pushed Congress to pass a law in 1974 setting rules for how pensions had to be funded and protected. Then came the accident. In 1978, Congress added a small technical section to the tax code, Section 401k, meant to let some employees set aside a little extra pay before taxes. A few benefits consultants realized it could be turned into something bigger, a savings account any worker could pay into, straight from their paycheck, with a tax break attached. It was never meant to replace the pension. It was supposed to sit on top of it, a little extra. But employers looked at it and saw something they liked a lot more than a lifetime promise, a way to cap their costs and hand the risk to you. By the mid-1980s, more workers were paying into these accounts than were earning a traditional pension. Today, it isn't close. Only about 1 in 7 private sector workers still has access to a real pension at all. So how did the do-it-yourself model actually work out? The honest answer is that for a lucky slice of people, it worked very well. For most, not nearly well enough. Look at the numbers. As of the end of 2025, the average balance in a 401k account was about $168,000. That sounds almost reasonable, but averages lie here because a small but growing group of very large accounts, some over $1 million, drags that number way up. The median tells the real story. The median is the middle. Half of people have more, half have less. And the median 401k balance was about $44,000. For workers in their late 50s and early 60s, the people staring straight at retirement, the median sits a little under $100,000. That's not a cushion. For a lot of households, that's a year or two of expenses, not a retirement. To make that number feel real, compare it to what older households actually spend. Once you add up housing, healthcare, food, and everything in between, a typical retiree household burns through far more in a single year than the median saver has managed to bank across an entire career. Personal savings were only ever meant to be one leg of a 3-legged stool: Social Security, a pension, and your own money. For most private sector workers, one of those legs, the pension, is simply gone. And a lot of people are now trying to balance on the 2 that are left. Now add Social Security, because most people lean on it hard. The average retired worker collects a little over $2,000 a month, or roughly $25,000 a year. And here's the part people miss. Social Security was never designed to replace your whole paycheck. For a typical earner, it replaces around 40% of what you made while working. The rest was always supposed to come from somewhere else. Under the old system, that somewhere else was a pension. Under the new one, it's whatever you manage to save on your own. That's the real cost of the shift. Not a single bill you can point to, but a gap. The space between what retirement actually takes and what most people have set aside to cover it. So if the risk moved from the employer to you, where did the money go? Follow it. Under a pension, your company hired professionals to manage one giant pool of money for thousands of workers at once. It was big, it was cheap per person, and most of the machinery was invisible to you. When the system switched to individual accounts, all of that money, trillions of dollars, got broken up into millions of separate accounts, and every single account became a customer. That's the quiet business story here. The shift didn't just move risk, it moved a river of fees into the financial industry. When your money sits in a fund, that fund charges a percentage every year to manage it, sometimes a fraction of a percent, sometimes well over 1%. On top of that, the company that runs your plan, called the record keeper, takes its own cut. It sounds tiny. It is not tiny. Here's why. A fee of 1% a year doesn't mean you lose 1% once. It compounds every year for your entire working life. Over 40 years, a fee that size can quietly eat a serious chunk of what your account would have grown to. Money that ends up with the fund company instead of with you. You never see the charge. It's just skimmed off the top automatically year after year. Now, the honest other side, fees have actually come down a lot. The rise of low-cost index funds, funds that just track the market instead of trying to beat it, push the cheapest options down to almost nothing. Automatic enrollment and target date funds, which adjust your investments as you age, have nudged millions of people into saving who otherwise wouldn't have. Balances have hit record highs. The system got better at getting ordinary people to put money away. But step back and the shape is clear. A guaranteed benefit managed by your employer became a fee-generating product managed by Wall Street, with you as the account holder and the market as the thing you are now personally exposed to. So who actually carries the weight now? You do. That's the whole point of what changed. Under a pension, 3 big risks belong to the employer. Investment risk, meaning what happens if the market drops right before you retire. Longevity risk, meaning what happens if you live 30 years past your last paycheck. And the plain risk of not putting enough away. In the old system, all 3 were somebody else's job. In the new one, all 3 are yours. And unlike a pension, this system doesn't care whether you were ready. It pays out exactly what's in the account, no more and no less, whether that's $2 million or $2,000. Think about what that means in practice. If the market crashes the year you plan to stop working, that's your loss. On your timeline, if you live longer than you expected, which is a good thing, your money still has to stretch to cover it, and there's no monthly check guaranteeing it won't run out. And if life got in the way and you couldn't save much, there's no backstop from your employer at all. There is one real backstop, and it's Social Security. For many older Americans, it isn't a supplement. It's most of what they've got. But remember, that program was built to replace only part of your income, and it has its own money problem coming. The trust fund that helps pay benefits is projected to run short in the early 2030s. If Congress does nothing, benefits could be cut across the board. Almost nobody expects lawmakers to let that happen cleanly, but the pressure is real and it's close. And when people do run out, the cost doesn't vanish. It lands on adult children who step in, or on public programs like Medicaid, the government health program that pays for long-term care once someone has spent down almost everything they own. The bill still gets paid, it just moves down the line, to families first and eventually to taxpayers. Beyond the obvious, the do-it-yourself system carries costs that never show up on a statement. Start with leakage. That's the industry's own word for money that leaks out of retirement accounts before retirement. When people change jobs, hit a rough month, or face an emergency, a lot of them cash out or borrow against the account. Each time, they lose not just the money, but every future year of growth it would have earned. A pension, you couldn't touch. A 401k, you can. And under pressure, people do. Then there's the decision load. A pension asked nothing of you. This system asks you to answer questions most people were never taught to answer. How much should you put in? Which funds? How much risk? When do you shift to something safer? When can you actually afford to stop working? Get a few of those wrong across a career, and the gap between you and the person who got them right becomes enormous, even if you both earned the exact same paycheck. There's timing luck too. 2 people can save the same amount and retire just 2 years apart. And if one of them hits a market crash at the wrong moment, they can end up with dramatically less. Under a pension, that luck didn't matter. Now it can shape your entire retirement. There's a cost that lands on the next generation too. When the savings fall short, the gap often gets filled by adult children, in money, in time, or in both. A daughter cuts her hours to help. A son quietly covers a parent's rent. That help almost never shows up in any retirement statistic, but it's one of the largest hidden costs in the entire system. And it gets paid in cash and careers by people who never signed up for it. And there's the simplest cost of all, uncertainty. The old promise let you plan because you knew the number. The new system asks you to guess how markets will move and how long you'll live, and then live with whatever answer you land on. So why is it built this way? Not because anyone sat down and designed it. It drifted here, one reasonable-looking decision at a time. For employers, the logic was simple. A lifetime pension is an open-ended promise sitting on the books for decades. A matching contribution to a 401k is a cost you know exactly this year, and then you're done. Cap the risk, cap the liability, move on. Multiply that across thousands of companies over 30 years, and you get the world we live in now. For the financial industry, the logic was even simpler. Millions of individual accounts, each one paying fees year after year. Notice who comes out ahead in that arrangement and who is left holding the risk. The employer's obligation shrinks to a known number. The industry's revenue grows with every new account. And the one thing nobody on that side has to lose sleep over anymore is whether your money actually lasts. And for workers, there was a genuine upside that made the trade easier to accept. These accounts are yours. You can carry them from job to job, which the old pensions actually punished you for leaving. Whatever's left when you die can pass to your kids. A pension usually can't. It's worth knowing this isn't the only way a country can do it. Some lean much harder on a public guaranteed benefit. Others require both workers and employers to pay into retirement accounts automatically, so saving isn't left up to willpower. The American system landed in the middle, a modest public floor in Social Security, and above that, a private system where the responsibility and the risk are mostly yours, and the math is only getting tighter as a huge wave of baby boomers retires and leans on a system already under strain. So what did this system actually deliver, and what did it take? It delivered freedom and ownership, and those are real. Your account is portable, it's inheritable, and in good markets, it can grow far beyond what a pension would ever have paid. For disciplined, higher-income savers who never hit a bad stretch, the new system can genuinely come out ahead, but it delivered those things by handing you a job you never asked for, managing your own lifetime income alone with no guarantee at the end. What it took was certainty. The old promise wasn't generous, but it was a promise, and somebody else carried the risk of a long life and a bad market. Now you carry both. The pension didn't disappear because it stopped working. It disappeared because it was expensive for employers and profitable to replace. The retirement your parents were promised wasn't lost. It was transferred off of corporate balance sheets and onto yours. Whether that was a fair trade depends almost entirely on which side of the median you land on. If this made the system a little clearer, take a second to like the video and subscribe. We break down the money behind growing old in America, one piece at a time. Thanks for watching.